I join you today and say with some relief that the Copa America is over. I was hoping to join you on this day over the last couple years when we were talking about this tournament to discuss that the United States is in great standing and moving forward full throttle towards the World Cup, and that we just completed a spectacular tournament, a dress rehearsal of the highest order for 2026. We can say neither, I'm afraid, and we will get into that. And look, this is interesting. This is what we get into this business for, to talk about moments like this. It isn't pretty. It's not perfect. You know, I'm not the kind of ambulance-chasing journalistic person looking to find things that are wrong and complain about everything. We're in that culture of complaining, but it is impossible to sweep under the rug what we saw at the Copa. We've already addressed what happened with the United States, and we will continue to look at what happens with the new coach, whoever that might be, and what happens with the players moving ahead for these next two critical years to get ready for the World Cup. Critical years where we don't have a lot of games between to get into tip-top shape. But that's not what we're talking about. We're discussing the Copa America, which ended in Miami very late on Sunday night. Argentina going back to back, and we will discuss all of it in full detail. The game, the tournament, the issues here on the Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast where all podcasts are available. We have a great one there with Tony Kerki of Apple TV. We're going to have a new one coming up, I believe, tomorrow. We'll talk with some people who had the feet on the ground in Miami around this Copa America. Of course, like and subscribe us here. We are hitting a new threshold for views and clicks, you name it. So I appreciate that. I try to get back to all your questions, but there's so many questions now. But whatever you want to say, I appreciate you for tuning in. I understand there's a lot of options out there. Thank you. Now, before we get into the cattle call long list of issues, I want to say something about the game, because I was going to record this as the game was going on, and it was going to be, a last rites to the Copa, complaining about or just being a very negative show in dismay, and it still is, because we're not going to run away from those issues. I just want to say, in a game last night where it was delayed, an hour and a half, hot, sticky conditions in Miami, where, everywhere you go, you felt this Copa America, because Miami, it's my hometown, so many Colombians and Argentines and Latinos, and you feel it everywhere you go, whether you're the players, whatever, you are feeling the Copa America. There's no hiding it. Miami is a big city. It's not LA or Dallas or New York or Chicago. So it's tight quarters, etc., etc. So the hour and a half delay, plus the lengthy halftime show, and these players were magnificent. You would never have guessed. It was intense. It felt like a big occasion. And I was like, I wasn't into the game. I'm sure many of you were not for the first 20, 30 minutes, but then you were. And you saw this masterpiece. You also had the added storyline of Lionel Messi playing injured, leaving the field in tears. This was great drama. And look, I saw Argentina win the Copa America 3 years ago. I saw Argentina win the World Cup. Both very impressive. A little bit flawed. People still argue about, some of the calls that went Argentina's way. I would say this game against Colombia, ending their 28-game winning streak, was the most impressive I've seen Argentina. And by the way, they looked great when Messi went out. So their future looks very bright. And we've been saying that about this tournament and what Messi does. And by the way, MLS now, they get the short end of the stick because Messi looks like he's going to be injured for a bit. Who knows? So they got to deal with it. But this was a hats off to Argentina. Hats off to Colombia for putting everything aside and playing a game that was absolutely riveting. Felt like a big, big occasion. I didn't think I would say that right now. And Argentina, for what they did, proving that they are one of the best teams we've ever seen in world football. The question is, does Messi move forward? I don't think he should. I think the temptation for the 2026 World Cup in the United States, where he will be in the United States, he says he's going to end his career at Inter Miami, which is good news for MLS because he's probably going to extend it through 2026 to connect the dots. I think he'd still play in Miami if he likes to play. He just won't play for Argentina even beyond 2026. But this should be the end of it for him. I know it was horrible optics and it's tears, but I'm going to show you what we know about athletes. We saw it with Cristiano Ronaldo. You see it with every athlete. It never ends well. It just ends because it has to end, because you don't have it anymore, because you've given everything. So to think that you're going to finish on top, and look, by the way, he did finish on top. He did finish on top, just on the sideline. I think this is a good exit point. I think he's given us so much. I think he feels obligated. He loves playing soccer, so my guess is we'll see him in 2026, but this should be the end. Maybe he surprises us all. Maybe he's doing it right now as I'm recording this. I don't know. Let's get into the Copa America. Let's go backwards from the... Well, let's start with, I hate complaining, and I understand there's a place for it. But we heard it from Lionel Scaloni. We heard it from Marcelo Bielsa in a famous press conference now, where he just laid into CONMEBOL, the organizers, the United States. Then we saw Jesse Marsh kind of get in there too, saying, Canada, it's not the same set of rules, bad player treatment. So this is really the issues. The fields, which, as Bielsa said it, the organizing committee said, look, we're going to lay field on top of the turf. He said, there wasn't connecting dots. So there were some issues, and players can get injured. The game can get compromised. I get it. It's not perfect. And it's something that they're going to have to work on in 2026, because these are a lot of NFL stadiums with artificial surface that you're turning there out. And they're not going to play at different stadiums, I can assure you. Access. That's another one that it's hard to budge on in such a big tournament with such huge personalities here in the United States. Resources, the treatment of the players, we'll get into each of this. And then security, which is really at the top of the list. We were so fortunate last night at the final that things didn't get bad, like there wasn't a trampling or people getting squeezed in an area, and we're talking about someone dying. I mean, it's not far-fetched. Security has to be better. This is a bit of a side note, but I think this is right at the top of the list, is VAR. Officiating and VAR, which I don't think were big issues later on, but they were at the beginning of the tournament. It really crushed the United States with their game against Uruguay. That was horrible. This should not have been a goal. Any way you look at it. There's a Colombian goal. But look, VAR was cataclysmic. So all of these things are ringing true. And we'll get to as much as we can, because we can't talk about everything. We'll be here for 2 hours. Let's talk about the final and the images that we saw. And a lot of people are ripping the United States, and we've got to take our share of the blame here. But this is CONMEBOL. They're the organizing committee. They schedule the security. They say how many police or this or that. They set everything up. They want the power. They get the power. This is just like FIFA does. Because this is our tournament. We keep a lot of the money. We benefit from it, but we are in charge. So CONMEBOL dropped the ball in a big way there. We knew this was going to be a big storm of a game when you have Colombia and Argentina playing in Miami. We all knew that. I'm sitting here in LA and people go, "Are you going to Miami?" I go, honestly, it's the last place I want to be right now, whether I'm at the game or around it. I just don't want to be. I'm old. I'm the OG, baby. It was just going to be a nightmare. And it all came to a head. What we got to understand is here in the United States, all we do is big events, and we do them well. Super Bowl, Olympics, World Cups, everything goes on without a hitch. Big crowds moved in and out. Everything happens here, and this is why we're hosting these events. So I know a lot of South Americans are going, we should never come back here. And I will, by the way, maybe I don't want another Copa America. Maybe I don't want another Copa America. This hassle, these complaints, this was awful. I don't want to sit here. I mean, it was just endless. Everyone's angry. They're angry at the U.S., but really the U.S. have to shoulder some blame with our part of it. But, South Americans are looking, we never want one. Most of South Americans are talking about never wanting one here again because evil. and, you know, pump the brakes a little bit. And look, this happens everywhere. The Wembley final for the Euros had a huge ticketing issue, right? So the Euros aren't off the hook here. They had that. We saw people spending thousands of dollars for tickets, unable to get in. The same thing happened here at Hard Rock Stadium. Fans who spent the money left outside. Fans without tickets went inside and sat wherever they could. And who knows, you know, what issues that could cause inside. We've all been there where we go into a stadium and someone's in your seat and you got to go, hey, and they don't want to move and they don't have to move. You get the security. The only way you can do it is move them physically yourself, which I have done before, and it didn't end well. You know, I'm in the midst of haymakers being thrown. It's not great. So it's just a bad scene. So everything has to be, it's kind of good it happened so you can see what is possible with this worst case scenario. But the Copa America, I mean, I don't want it back here anytime soon. If this is what we're going to deal with, screw it. Play it over there and let the U.S. come. But everyone wants the dollars for the Copa America, so they certainly come here. But this happened there 3 years at the Euros. When the Copa America has been held in South America, it's been a nightmare. The last time, granted, it was COVID. No country wanted to host it. And then it was in Brazil, in empty stadiums. All the players went down there. 60, 70% of the players came back with COVID. It was a mess. I mean, CONMEBOL, you look at what they've done. I mean, they can't be. Remember, what was it, the 2000s, the 2016 Copa Libertadores, River and Boca, tear gas. They couldn't play in Argentina. They had to play the second leg in Spain. So, you know, don't give me that for our South American friends, because that is a mess. We can help. We dropped the ball here, but this really, we're just kind of, we're a second fiddle, so to speak. So the game there was a nightmare. I want to talk about, I mean, TUDN. I switched channels, and there was Fox and there was TUDN. TUDN was amazing. They had feet on the ground outside the stadium, filming what was going on, so you could see the news story. And we gravitate towards this. You remember, look, what happened the day prior, Donald Trump. We don't want these things to happen, but you want, as an audience, you want to see everything. You want the journalist to show you what's happening. That is what journalism is. That's how it works. If things are going badly, you want to see it. And they did an amazing job interviewing people who had tickets who didn't get in, showing people coming in the air ducts to go through to the stadium. It was crazy. The people calling the match, giving their firsthand comments about what's going on in the stadium. And then over at Fox, and, you know, I love the people at Fox. They did a great job covering these two tournaments. They just ignored it. And I understand that's the approach, where, because not a lot of English-speaking fans had no idea what was happening at the stadium. Fox decided not to show it. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't have someone say we're delayed here and not know what's going on. You got to get out there. And I know they're saying, look, this is a fault. And this is part of our coverage, which is a big issue for me. We treat our audience like children. And we can't do that anymore. Everything about it. I'm getting a little bit off topic here. I'll get back on the rails. But just to say what has happened here with our coverage. It's, you know, lowest common denominator. You know, it's like it's a children's show. They don't get into roll their sleeves up conversations. Look at the advertisers. And I love the advertisers. Thank you for advertising and pumping money into our sport. But the commercials were directed at non-sophisticated. They weren't funny. I mean, they just were there. It was like the same commercials you see at every big soccer tournament with the same jokes. And they're just, but that's how they view the soccer audience. The journalism across the board, granted, was good on the Spanish side, is not good enough. I don't think we have top journalists covering the sport that we do in other sports. I worked at ESPN. I've seen it firsthand. I include myself in it. It's got to be better. We've got to be better storytellers. We've got to be more urgent. So, I mean, that's something we failed in. But I just couldn't believe my eyes. I switched channels. I go, what's going on? It was like two different broadcasts. It didn't fit the pregame show what they were throwing to, and that can't be the case. Sometimes you got to get uncomfortable, and if bad things are happening, you've got to report them. Let's get back to the complaints of Marcelo Bielsa and so forth. all these things have to be fixed. Security certainly is at the top of that list. I mean, we've got to get it right for the World Cup. And, the World Cup when we did it in 94 was good. The Copa America in 2016 went on relatively without a hitch. So I don't know what happened, but you got to maybe hire those people back and not do what we did here again. And I think there's too much sweeping under the rug, and you can't do it. Marcelo Bielsa kind of laid into it, and he was right. There's some things that the players and teams have to take control of. One of the things he's talked about is how the Colombian fans, who are getting a really bad rap, Colombian fans are amazing, but there's just so many Colombians and they were excited about this game. They're not alone in some of the bad stuff that happened. The thing that happened in Charlotte is there was families of the Uruguayan players. They were here. The fight that broke out was over here. The Uruguayan players came in. I'm fine with that, but they didn't protect their families. They went over here to fight. They can't do that. So, and Jesse Marsh touched on it. He said if the Canadians did this, they'd be suspended 3-4 games. They probably would. I don't know what's happened to the Uruguayan players. They all played the third place game. Probably let's get rid of third place games. So, they went there. The players they don't want any, and we've heard this, Uruguay loses and they go, they're mad. You got to take some responsibility too. I can sit here and dump on CONMEBOL and the U.S. organizers, but you got to help if you're players. And Marcelo Bielsa wiping his hands and taking no blame is wrong. He's got to control that situation a little better too, because his players can protect their family. I mean, Darwin Núñez went right by his wife or his girlfriend, I don't know what it is, talked to her, and then went and started throwing punches. No, protect your family. Don't get into this. And you could see the Uruguayan contingent also fired it up. So there's got to be some responsibility. We've all got to help out on this. Again, I could go on and on. Again, the bottom line is CONMEBOL and the organizers bit off way more than they could chew. I would have put the final somewhere else, not in Miami, because you knew it would have probably ended up this way. Things have to be tightened up, and you've got to address them. And everyone's got to take their responsibility. We'll come back and talk more about it. I don't want to keep going on and on. And we got to be better on the journalistic side. It's just, and we're adults here. Entertain us as soccer. Don't go to the same clickbait. Don't say things just to get clicks or whatever. Let's have a conversation about the sport. It's so interesting. Let's do it. Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast where all podcasts are available. Like and subscribe us here. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back soon.